Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Objective, the Thursday edition, brought to you by the Ayn Rand Center UK. Now, normally Rucka is the one doing the great introductions today, but I wanted to do this because we have two very special guests with us today. Jacqueline Schumann and Jennifer Buani are two writers that I had the pleasure of making an acquaintance with a few months back. They wrote a fantastic adaptation of Atlas Shrugged called The Strike. It is a limited series TV show that they have reimagined, and it is in the midst of being pitched to the Hollywood community as we speak. I know that some of you folks listening and watching today have seen me mention their names from time to time, and I wanted to give you a chance to meet them and ask them questions, probe their minds to get to the bottom of this crazy thing we call The Strike, which is probably one of the best pilot television episodes I have ever read, and I've read thousands and thousands of scripts. So here they are, folks, the faces behind the magic. But before we do that, I want to introduce my co-host, Rucka, who's normally the one giving these beautiful long monologues. Rucka, how you doing today?
Pretty good. It feels like a vacation right now. And I got to say, your passion about this, talking about this project, I frankly never seen you this excited talking about me. So this must be good.
I'm just able to hide it better with you. That's all. But look, I wanted the folks out there to meet Jacqueline and Jennifer. Guys, how you doing? Jacqueline, Jennifer, what's up?
We're doing great, and you can feel free to call me Jax.
Okay, good.
Thanks for having us on. We're excited to be here.
Awesome. So I want to ask you guys a few questions, if you don't mind, and I'm sure that it'll stimulate lots of questions out there in the viewing audience. So tell me about yourselves. First of all, what's your history with objectivism, and how did you get started writing together?
So I have been a longtime objectivist back in the day when Yaron Brook was still a professor at Santa Clara University, and we would go over to his house Friday nights for movie nights and watch the movies and break down the movies in this group called Objectivist Students by the Bay. So I'm clearly dating myself here, but I consider myself a student of objectivism, not an objectivist, but just continually studying and learning. I like objectivism. Sort of, I found it. My story is different. Most people start with like the Fountainhead, or I started right with Atlas Shrugged because I had come back from living in Europe as having converted from being a lifelong Baptist to a wannabe agnostic and then soon to be atheist. And somebody told me, you should really read this book, Atlas Shrugged, and changed my life. So before I talk about how the two of us met, I'll let Jennifer briefly tell her how she came to OISM story.
Yeah, my journey is similar to a lot of objectivists. I grew up in a very religious community in the Bible Belt, Methodist. And that was my life and my whole social life. And then I got to college, and I think I was studying computer engineering, and logic and religion weren't quite melding. And I had a boyfriend who was challenging me on my beliefs. And after I graduated, I started to get really curious about all different religions. So I read that book, The World's Religions, but I really didn't find a home. And I had a friend who was about 15 years older than me that I worked with in Atlanta. And she was always just having really intriguing conversations and bringing books to me. And she brought to me the Fountainhead. But even as I read the Fountainhead, I thought it was a good book. But I don't think it clicked yet. I was like, these people talk so differently from the people around me in my world. But I continued to read Ayn Rand, and I read her Opar, and I eventually read Atlas Shrugged, which then it clicked, and I was like, oh my God, I'm home. This all makes so much sense. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not terribly unusual. I think a lot of people who have religious upbringings go through something similar like that. But then I started following Yaron Brook and the ARI and his speeches. He would come to Atlanta, and I really enjoyed listening to his lectures. And that's actually how I ended up meeting Jax when I moved out to Silicon Valley about 9 years ago. Yaron would come to Silicon Valley to speak too. And if you want to, Jax, you can share how we met. And,
so Yaron had since moved, left his position at the university, and was down in SoCal full time running ARI. And I recall, so anytime I would get like a notification that he was going to be in the Bay Area speaking on something, I'd try and go. And this happened to be just like a random notification that I got. It was actually right after the Charlie Hebdo massacre, and Yaron was going around talking about free speech. And so there was this notification that he was speaking that night at 7 o'clock in some rinky-dink hotel in Palo Alto that was under construction, and you had to go down like 4 floors to get there. And me being who I am, I was late, and Jennifer being who she is, she was on time. And there was only one seat left.
Right next to me.
I was right next to her, and we realized as I sat down next to her, we realized we knew each other because both of our children were in children's musical theater, and we're like, "Oh, you're an objectivist? You're an objectivist? Interesting. What else do you do? You're a writer? You're a writer? Well, let's go have a glass of wine." And,
that's how it all began.
Wow, that's crazy. It's crazy how great things like this seem to be started just by a flash encounter or luck. Well, how did you guys come to write an adaptation of Atlas Shrugged? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that was kind of another crazy coincidence, because we happened to have one of those same kinds of encounters with this gentleman named Tal Safani, who we met at a house in Palo Alto. I guess Palo Alto really plays a big deal in this, and got to talking to him, and one thing led to another, and he learned that we were screenwriters. And when we actually went to, back in, this would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, January 2020. So this is just a couple months before lockdown. We went to a one-day ARI conference in San Francisco, and saw Tal, and Tal came up to us and said, "Hey, would you guys be interested in doing an Atlas Shrugged adaptation? I happen to know people are buzzing about it now, and I might be able to put you in touch with the right people to get the project moving." And we were like, "Would we be interested?"
That's right up our alley. Yeah. We had been writing TV drama pilots together for a little while, and we had written a couple of things with some producers locally and had actors reading our stuff. So we went back and reread Atlas Shrugged to just refresh our memories of it, and turned it into a TV drama that would play out over 3 seasons of like 12 episodes each, so that we could really take the time to get into these characters and really get to know them, both the protagonists and the antagonists. And we knew that was going to take a lot more time than a movie. So yeah, so that's
Tal was the catalyst for all of this.
Blame Tal. Yes, he was the.
Well, I blame him for introducing me to you guys, because he came to me at a certain point in the development of your script and said, "Look, these 2 girls have written this script. You might want to read it." And of course, I get asked to read scripts all the time from tons of people, and it's usually a highly disappointing experience and a waste of time. And so I try not to do it as often as possible, because I am nearly 100% of the time disappointed. And this time I decided to do it and read this script and was absolutely blown away. Now, I read the script either a short time before or after. Maybe you guys can refresh me on my own memory. I did the ARI fundraiser, where we actually did a piece from Ayn Rand's original script of Atlas Shrugged. And my first experience with that was to tell them to cut a lot of stuff because it was horrendously bad in my view. Not the writing, of course, is beautiful and pristine in its own way, but just horrendously bad in script form and almost impossible to sift through if you're watching it as a viewer. But with you guys, I got philosophy, but in narrative, and I never knew I was being talked at. Which brings me to a point here. You guys reimagined this story, I think, to make it accessible to not only the new generations of people that are coming up today, but I think generally to a wider audience out there, certainly more than objectivists. I read it trying to separate myself from knowing objectivism and would I like this as a television show, just pure entertainment? And the answer, of course, was yes. And so I think I was able to do that because of the way you guys reimagined these characters. Tell me why and how you did that.
Well, I remember when we kind of sat down together and talked about after Tal had put the bug in our ear, we sat down and we were like, so how do we do this? It's not like we'd ever had conversations, in-depth conversations prior to that on, if we ever had the chance to do Atlas Shrugged, what would we do? Because we never thought that opportunity would ever happen. So we sat down and we, like for me, I thought about it from the perspective of if Ayn Rand were alive today, in today's times, what would Atlas Shrugged look like? What would that world look like in a world of Jeff Bezos and Zuckerbergs and getting, dragged in front of Congress and universal basic income and I mean so many prophetic things that she really prophesied from the books. But my feeling and I think Jennifer's feeling too is that it's Atlas Shrugged at the time that it was written in the 50s with trains and steel was amazing, absolutely amazing. And the characters were amazing. How do we bring that into today's time to make it as accessible to all the kind of like the diverse people that are out there now that are trying to run businesses, that are in the entertainment industry, that are, aspiring CEOs. And I mean, it kind of just became this, and we both have high tech backgrounds. So it just sort of seemed like a no brainer to we got to update all the technology and we have to make sure that the technology maps. And I'm going to totally pass the buck on to you there, Jennifer, because that's your deal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we just wanted to make sure that the story stays in place. So we had three major points of our vision. Number one, we wanted to entertain. Number two, we wanted to influence a new generation of people who hadn't quite made up their mind what their philosophy or religion was going to be. So we wanted to really hit in 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, maybe even 18-year-olds, something that would entertain them and inspire them. And then we wanted to make sure we protected the philosophy. So in order to keep the story intact, we've created the day after tomorrow technology, but we've kept all the relationships between the characters and the companies who's suppliers of each other, who are customers of each other, are all intact so that all the conflicts will stay the same. And so that was a really important piece of this, to make sure that we are able to tell the story in a way that would hopefully make Ayn Rand proud.
Can you talk about the technology a little bit? I'm not sure if it matters to the audience, but I think it's interesting. It's because it's set in the near future. It's conceivable to us today, but also far enough in the future to make it interesting, something that you have to reach for.
Yeah, I'll be buzzword gal. So instead of trains, we have fully autonomous semi trucks. And instead of steel that the trains are built on, we have nuclear powered batteries that the trucks run on. are we have mapped our Ellis Wyatt is no longer in oil. He is an e-commerce guy. So what we've had to make sure to do is make sure that the relationship between these suppliers and providers are the same, so that Dagny has the same relationship with Hank, where she needs Hank for an integral part of her new semi-autonomous or fully autonomous. Because right now things for her are semi-autonomous, and she's planning the Rio Norte 2.0 to be fully autonomous. So we're using technology like AI, CV to X, 5G, even 6G. We're actually we're assuming that 5G is ubiquitous, and we've got 6G just around the corner. So there's a lot of really, really cool upgrades, and I gotta say, we got like one of the craziest validations for what we were doing a few months ago when Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan. And Rogan starts out asking him, I guess Bill Gates apparently said, autonomous trucks can't be done. And Elon Musk was like, that's not true. They can totally be done. And he went into this big long explanation of how you could do it. You could even have like this convoy of trucks with one pilot, one driver, and all these autonomous trucks following it. And Joe Rogan was like, oh, kind of like a train, right? And Elon's, yeah, just like a train. And we're like, yeah, we wrote that scene. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Rucka, I think we have some super chat questions.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Marialine, LMH, and Bonnie for your support. Christopher asks, what time period is it set in? So like shortly in the future, sort of the day after tomorrow, so to speak? Do I understand correct?
Yeah,
the day after tomorrow.
And Robert asks, question, in reimagining the story, is there any of the original style, feel, and especially the dialogue retained / reused?
There is, we went through, on our own, we've read Atlas Shrugged several times. And after we got the call from Tal, we went back and read it again very meticulously. There are some fantastic, like Dagny is just like the deliverer of zingers, and there are some lines that absolutely have to stay in. At the wedding when Cheryl approaches her and tells her that she wears she's the woman of the family, and Dagny's like, well, I'm the man. And I mean that just needs to stay exactly as it is. What we have done and deviated from is we have brought these characters into a world where they're not performing on stage as Shakespeare. And I mean, I love the style and the aesthetic of Atlas Shrugged. It just is very hard to play that dialogue, as Mark had already alluded to when trying to even do like a screen reading of it. We both have teenagers, and they're kind of like our first people that we go to when we look at, hey, how does this work? And either they're like, I wouldn't say that, and like I recently learned from my daughter the bruh thing, so we had to put that in. Right? I know, Jennifer, if you wanted to comment on it.
No, you got it. You're good.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, go ahead, Rucka.
Well, just a contemporary dialect. This is not, this is not like this monosyllabic type of thing that like people have maybe tried to do in sort of depicting Rand's novels. I think Jennifer, you mentioned like reading The Fountainhead. You were thinking these people don't talk like anyone I've ever met, and you've made it contemporary. It sounds like while abstracting the essentials of it.
There's a kind of creative license that you can take in the medium, both in film and TV medium, where there are a lot of shows that I can, that we can look at today where we think, oh, those people don't like necessarily talk that way. Anything. So I mean, we look at billions. Billions is one of our big comps, and you look at the at like a character like Chuck Rhodes, who I mean, he could give a Shakespearean speech, and it would fit his character. So there are certain, certain liberties that we can take to, because there's a way that Francisco speaks that's very different from Dagny. Dagny's not a chatty person. Francisco can be more verbose, and the way that Hank reacts to things is completely, Hank is going to say one word if he even says that, and he's just going to go show you what he's going to do. So what we hope is that we've taken the true philosophical spirit of these characters and translated them to, what if they were born today? How would they talk?
And I just want to say, you get writers like Aaron Sorkin and David Milch. They write dialogue. Dialogue meaning it's stylized, and it's dialogue, but it flows out in a sort of human way that's still accessible, even though it is dialogue. And I feel like that's what I got with you guys. It was stylized. It's not naturalistic writing. It's still in the romantic vein, but utterly accessible. One of the problems that I have with with Atlas Shrugged, above and beyond any of her other work, is that it's extremely didactic, and every character sounds like a philosopher. And what you guys do is you give different voices to these characters that I don't get from the novel, to be honest with you. So for me, the script is an improvement upon the novel because it keeps the essential philosophy, it keeps the romance, it keeps the dialogue aspect of it without losing us. Are
you checking for the lightning bolt behind you, Mark, when you say that?
I don't care about lightning bolts. I spit at lightning bolts. Rucka, are there any more questions? Because I still have a couple more that I could carry on with, or if you have questions.
Well, just a couple super chats. Nathan and Brian, thank you for the support. And yeah, I mean, I've got a couple questions before we wrap as well, but this is like different from Atlas Shrugged in a number of ways, but like it's essentially telling the same story from what I gather. We can go ahead and fire a few questions now if you'd like, Mark.
Yeah. So sort of jumping off on that vein, tell me what the show is and what it isn't.
The show is entertaining above all. It is the essence of, we feel it is the essence of Atlas Shrugged. It is not a faithful adaptation of the knowledge set in with either bringing them into having a period piece, or is it a faithful adaptation where you're trying to use the same sort of technology back in the 50s and bring it up to the day. So I think that is, I think there are a lot of kind of purists out there who would want to see just a straight period piece that and have it set in the 50s, but we just didn't think that was going to have the kind of appeal and all the validation that we've gotten since we've started shopping this around in Hollywood has proved that we've done it the right way. So, and it is also not meant to be a, hit you over the head with philosophy. It's sort of meant to be like a sneaky way of getting a better way of or getting a new way of thinking about something. It's an alternative way of thinking about something in a world where we just don't see that often.
Yeah, and you say purists, I say people without imagination. So, but maybe I'll make enemies by framing it that way. Jennifer, did you want to add to that at all?
No.
So this is 3 seasons. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So this 3 seasons and 12 episodes. So can I ask, and feel free to plead the fifth, are they going to be an hour long? or 30 minutes if you know yet? And is one of the full episodes going to be like the speech? Is that kind of how you're planning to do that?
Oh, Rucka, you really make a great segue. Yes, they are planning to be an hour long, and ideally 55 to 60 minutes long. Ideally, we think the streaming platform is probably best for this. And one of the things that we actually, I may be jumping the gun here a bit, but one of the things that we wanted to bring to your viewers and the audience is, so we have, stepping back, we have a full pilot script, and we have what's called a show Bible, which is basically the business plan for your TV show. And it tells producers, what the seasons are going to look like, what the tone is, the character arcs. And so we have a full treatment for season 1. Well, of course, we know that John Galt's speech doesn't come until the latter part. And that is, that's one of the things that we still are trying to figure out. And there are a number of things that we're kind of still trying to figure out. And we thought it'd be kind of a cool segment to maybe, be able to poll your audience and have some, some of the great Ayn Rand fans that you guys have here on your channel to give their input on it. We're open to certain things. We think Mark would make a good Jim Taggart, but maybe somebody else thinks somebody else should be a good Jim Taggart.
Which kind of brings up another question I have. Every DVD commentary I've ever listened to makes it sound like there's a big war between the director, creative team versus the studio. And there's one of my favorite comedies is called Episodes. Maybe you know it, on Showtime, where a show in England about a headmaster at an all-boys school is brought to America, and by the time Hollywood is done adapting it, it's about a hockey coach. Starring Matt LeBlanc, Joey from Friends.
That's a great series.
Yeah. So, are you worried about the studio ruining it? Are you imagining needing to go to war against them?
Jennifer, do you want to take that?
Well, I mean, like I said, in our vision, we want to protect the philosophy. So I don't see us, we've already had some situations where we might have had to compromise and we didn't. We're not going to. It's just not worth it. This is too big of a deal. We get one shot to tell this story in this format and do it right. And, we don't want to compromise that. So yeah, I guess we are prepared to go. I'm prepared. Are you prepared?
I'm prepared to blow up the building a la Howard Work, because I mean, so much of this even among some of the purists, we're very convinced that we have got a really good creative thing that is not only aesthetically great, especially because it's, it needs to be told in an epic storytelling and, with big budget. And, everything else is like a poor shade of the Parthenon. And I would rather create a Howard Work building or blow it up than nothing else. So.
And, looking into the future, I think it's likely the purists will get to try their hand at this as the novels get more popular, as the philosophy spreads, hopefully. I mean, there's a good chance there will be a very faithful adaptation of Atlas Shrugged in the future. And there's also probably going to be a Quentin Tarantino sort of version of Ayn Rand's novels and, Howard Rourke in space or whatever. Like, these things are likely to happen. But at this point in time, speaking as an audience member, as a fan of Ayn Rand and an objectivist, I'm very happy with what I've heard, that you care about this philosophy, that it matters to you, but you also get how to make a show in today's world. So this seems like the best of all worlds to me today. So you have my full support. And is there a way people can support this currently? Is there like a fundraising thing, or is it really just between you and the producer / studios at this point?
Yeah, we're not doing any fundraising on it because we have a manager now who is getting this into a bunch of production companies in Hollywood. So we are continuing down that route. But if people want to check us out, our website is booshoo-scripts.com. It's BOOSHOO scripts.com. And there's a way that people can contact us from there as well. I do want to note something that Mark's been very generous in saying that, you know, the first time that he read our script, it was amazing, and we are very appreciative of that. But I also want to give props to Mark. Jennifer and I have been writing for 6 years together. We have various writing groups. We've done table reads, we've gotten feedback, we've had actors come in and read our stuff, and we're no strangers to critique and feedback. I will say that Mark gave us the best notes on our first draft that we've gotten from anybody on any script that we've written. So very much, like, just kudos to Mark and your talent and your craft. So,
and all of your support that you've given us, Mark. He's definitely been out there, a cheerleader for us, and also a big brother defending us in a lot of ways.
Sometimes knocking heads together, and let's hope we can say these things at the Golden Globes and the Emmys, where you guys belong.
Yeah, and I helped as well. Don't forget here today. We got a couple more super chats. Nathan asked, how many hours do you plan on it being? So I think it's 36 episodes, each one roughly an hour. So that's about it. Maybe if it's on HBO, some of them will be an hour and a half. Maybe the John Galt speech type episodes. Anyway, more to be determined. And thank you, Marilyn, for the $3, and thank you, Bonnie. She says, pilot date or too soon? Oh, it's never too soon, but it's kind of too soon. We don't have a pilot date, do we? Do you?
We don't have a pilot date. We have to, that's all going to depend on which production company takes it and how quickly they want to fast track it.
All right. Well, Mark, any more questions from you, or should we move this over to Clubhouse?
We have questions, but I think we should save it for Clubhouse and let everybody join in the conversation.
All right. Well, I speak on behalf of everyone when I say thank you for working on this project. And also, I had no idea Yaron Brook was doing Friday night movie night at his house. I think we're all going to have to now. We're going to take a trip to Puerto Rico, I think, and have to do a big movie night.
Start that up again.
Looking forward to that.
My favorite was when he did the Terminator 1 and 2 series and The Abyss. Those were my two favorites that we had really good discussion about.
All I know is
$500 to review a movie.
Yeah, I just can't wait for the Terminator Atlas Shrugged crossover. You know that's coming if
absolutely. Yeah,
okay. Well, thank you for being here and telling us about this exciting project. Thank you, Mark, for conducting this interview with such leadership skills. And thank you, everybody, for contributing. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We're going to jump over to Clubhouse now, and we'll be back here same time tomorrow on The Daily Objective. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.